I was involved with this charity in Israel to raise money for victims of terror. Kids who need like prosthetic legs and kids who need like prosthetic arms and
Okay.
blind sailors and whatever. And I was helping them raise money in the United States. And this was like when PayPal was first getting big. So I had to set up a PayPal account for them. And they were going around the country using this PayPal account that I had set up for them to raise money. And they were raising a lot of money around America, you know, going on a whole tour, donations. And what had happened was PayPal froze the account because they said they're not a real nonprofit. Because they're a nonprofit in Israel, but they didn't get their 501c3 in the U.S.
Right. Okay.
So PayPal froze all their money. And they looked at me and they were like, what happened? I was like, I mean, I don't know. And that made me realize that a lot of times you think that that's your money, but it's not your money. Mm-hmm. And when I found out about Bitcoin, someone started talking to me about it. And I started playing around, you know, and I just downloaded, you know, I downloaded Bitcoin D and then the Bitcoin QT at the time. So Bitcoin, before the term Bitcoin Core came, there was two iterations of Bitcoin. There was Bitcoin QT, and this was the downloadable software that you could download on your Mac or PC or Linux. And actually, when you ran it, it was a node, it was your wallet, and it mined. So as software was open, you were mining. So everyone was mining. Someone asked me, when did you ever mine Bitcoin? I was like, everyone mined Bitcoin. It's just what you did.
You weren't in a pool.
No, everyone mined Bitcoin on their own because the software mined for you.
So did you solve some blocks? You must have.
Yeah,
solved...
of course I did. Everyone did.
So
everyone
when it did, was it
blocks.
like, wow, fuck, I got one?
No, it didn't, because Bitcoin had no value.
Okay.
There was no tradability, really. There was like one website that was literally just like a Google spreadsheet that one guy manually updated of bids and offers of people. This is pre-Mt. Gox.
Well, yes.
That was the Bitcoin exchange. It was like 10,000 Bitcoin for $5. You know? And it wasn't real. So Gavin ran a faucet that was basically giving away. You put your address on the faucet and you get 100 Bitcoin.
Fuck 100
I know,
Bitcoin.
and it's just who cares? Like Bitcoin wasn't worth anything back then.
And I used to hear about people used to buy it on like eBay, and someone would send them the money, and then they would send them the Bitcoin.
Sure.
Could you imagine that happening now? You wouldn't get the Bitcoin.
No, you never get it. And so that's what it was like back then. And so when I downloaded the software, I generated an address, you know, and my friend Joe, him and I were into tech together. So he was at his house in New Jersey. I was in New York. And I had told him to download the software, generate an address, and I'll send it to you. I'll send you some Bitcoin. So he downloaded the software, and I sent him 500 Bitcoin. And
500.
It didn't go through. Like, he never got it. Until today, I don't know why he never got it. I think I know why. I think because he didn't have his ports open. He didn't sync the chain. So it actually did send to him. And I remember years later, I was like, Joe, you got to find that laptop. Like, you got your private keys are on that laptop. He's like, no, I threw it away years ago. I was like,
it's like $5 million today.
Yeah, I know. And so you're like, you got to find it. But that was so as I was starting to understand it, the way it clicked was had this software and he had it. And I was like, okay, it's like a downloadable version of PayPal, except these units called Bitcoins aren't worth shit. So who cares? Why is this thing such a big deal? And then I had started reading more about it. And I was talking to all my friends in the IRC network, and we started chatting about Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin was talked about on IRC and on the Bitcoin forums. But IRC was bigger. Like, everyone talked about it. Like, you could, at one point, I remember in 2012, we got every mining pool, every exchange, and every major business in one IRC chat room.
Wow.
Because there was in 2012, I think it was 2012, 2013, when we upgraded to Bitcoin version 9, it wasn't compatible with version 8, and it was a big hard fork, and the chain actually split. Half the miners were mining on one chain and the other miners, and we were able to get everyone in the room together and basically like have everyone drop one chain and continue mining on the other chain. Right. That was a big deal. Yeah, I remember that. I was like at a bar mitzvah and I had to go home because I was running BitInstant, and we were running the nodes of one chain. We had to like stop. Me, BitPay, Mt. Gox, Trade Hill, I think that was it. There wasn't no one else.
All right,
we had to like pause.
How many Bitcoin do you reckon you've like?
But wait, before you, so you've asked me why it clicked for me.
Yeah.
And
because it's got no value.
So what happened was, as I understood it, you literally open up the database file on your computer, and you're seeing in real time the size of this file is increasing. So imagine you have a file on your computer that's constantly increasing. You're like, why is it 100 megabytes and now it's 101 and then it's 102? The file size is increasing because what's happening is in real time, your database is getting all the transactions of everyone else using it in real time. So I maintain a copy of the blockchain in real time of not just my transactions, but everyone else's. And that clicked for me because now I realized, so this ledger is actually completely decentralized. And I didn't even use the word decentralized because that wasn't like a lingo. But I said this ledger is now actually like being maintained on everyone's computers in real time. So no one can freeze it. No one can reverse it. No one can counterfeit. No one can double spend. Like that's when it really clicked for me.
Right. So, okay. So at that point, you're like, I get it. Now it needs to have some kind of value.
Now it needs to have some kind of value. And that's when I started BitInstant.
Okay. So just back in those early days, how many Bitcoin do you reckon you've just given away or lost just fucking about?
How many have I given away or lost?
Yeah.
Hundreds, if not thousands.
Thousands of Bitcoin. It's mad,
There's a YouTube video out there of a guy who made a theme song about BitInstant. Anyone can YouTube it right now and find it. It's by this good Chow Dong or Zutong or whatever. And in the comments of the video, you can see it till today. You can see it in the comments. I said, hey man, give me your Bitcoin address. I want to send you some Bitcoin. And I meant to send him 5 Bitcoin because it was worth like $100 at the time. So I was giving him like $500. And I accidentally sent him 50 Bitcoin. And I was like, he's like, should I send it back? I was like, nah, man, just keep it.
Yeah.
You know?
And the people these days are just like, I just want to get 1 Bitcoin. I just want to get the sats.
One is a big number, you know? Even 1 Bitcoin. It's not, think about it, there'll only ever be 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's less really when you think, if you're really honest, because the 4 million they reckon have been lost?
Maybe more than that. Yeah. There'll be a lot less than that, maybe half.
Yeah, so you say 17 million, but was it you who tweeted out recently? You said you're only going to need 5.
You only need 5.
You only need 5.
You'll only need 5 in like 10 or 20 years from now. You know, life-changing money. $5 million. 1 Bitcoin, $1 million. $5 million is enough money to have that money work for you, and you could live off the interest. You know, because that's wealth. Wealth is not how much money you have. Wealth is when you have money that's working for you to make you more money, and you can sit back and do nothing for the rest of your life, and you'll just have income coming in. That's wealth.
So you've discovered Bitcoin, you're getting your head around it, and then you decide you want to create a business.
No.
No?
Not yet. Knowing me, I always have side hustles. So my first foray into earning money with Bitcoin was I would go on eBay and I would buy like airline vouchers, like JetBlue vouchers and American Airline vouchers from people, and then resell those vouchers for Bitcoin at a profit. That was how I would earn Bitcoin.
Okay. And then
I started selling a lot of my daily checkout products online to earn Bitcoin too, like knives and stuff like that. I would sell knives and throwing knives and all this stuff. I would sell anything I could sell, really. I would sell for Bitcoin on the forums. And then one day I was just browsing the forums. It was about like May 2011, and I see a post by this guy named Gareth Nelson, UK. And he's like, "Hey, I have an idea to make buying Bitcoin faster." Going back to what I said earlier, the thing had no value. So in the back of my mind, I was always saying, this thing needs to, I need to get some. And I was content with the community that we had, right? The community that we had was a great little community. It wasn't meant to grow into this whole thing it was today. We just wanted to be a stable little community of people transacting with each other on these forums and using Bitcoin to do it. That's all it was. If the economics of Bitcoin and people buying and selling and holding it never went beyond this forum and these marketplaces, like these message boards, they're totally fine with me. Like that's what it was. And that was never meant to be this whole thing. It was this social experiment at the end of the day. So Gareth had posted this thing, and he's like, I have an idea to make buying Bitcoin easier. And again, the idea to make buying Bitcoin easier wasn't so I can get my grandma to buy Bitcoin. It was so people on the forums could be able to have the way to buy and sell Bitcoin faster, so we could all transact with each other. And so Gareth had an idea, and the idea was BitInstant. He called it something else. He had a very basic idea. And so what I did is I messaged him back, and the post is public. I said, I like this idea. How much money do you need to start it? He's like, I need $1,000. I said, all right, let's do it together. We'll own it 50-50. And that was the start of a beautiful relationship, business relationship together. And we started BitInstant, which very quickly later was the largest Bitcoin company ever. We had like 30 people working for us. And I started it in my basement. I didn't intend for it to be like this whole business. It was like a side hustle. And the rest
So this
is kind
came
of history.
before Mt. Gox.
This was during the same time as Mt. Gox.
About the same
Mt.
time.
Gox was very difficult to buy Bitcoin. You'd have to wire money to some Japanese guy's personal bank account, and it was just manual, and it was shady and weird. And then once you have the money on the exchange, you have to like buy Bitcoin with it. You want to like just buy Bitcoin. You don't have to like enter in a bid order and ask on the exchange. It's complicated.
Actually, prior to the Japanese account, it was wired to Jed's Chase account.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, so that's what, and then before he sold it to Mark. So how did BitInstant do it differently?
What BitInstant did was BitInstant would maintain large accounts at Mt. Gox already. And we did it through various credit agreements with Mt. Gox, or we'd actually wire him a few $100,000 and leave it there. And then what we'd do is we'd have people in the U.S., we'd have bank accounts here, and we had relationships with like Walgreens and CVS and Duane Reade and Walmart, where you can walk into these locations, deposit money with them, and then our software would instantly move money from our account at the exchange to your account at the exchange.
Right, okay. So tell me the journey from it being you two with $1,000 to being 30 people.
It just grew very quickly. I had the original $1,000, and then I borrowed money from my mom, like 10 grand, and then Roger Ver put in $100 and something thousand, and then Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss put in $1.5 million.
How did you meet them?
I had another investor, David, who I knew from Brooklyn, and he was just kind of crazy, wacky guy, really nice guy, and he was in Ibiza on vacation with his wife, and he saw them like just out on the beach, and he offered them his beach chair and said, "Hey, have you heard about this Bitcoin thing?" And they're like, "No." And he sold them on it, like literally on the beach. And then they were still very unconvinced, but they had heard about it, you know, through him and from their research. And so they called me up out of the blue, and they were like, "Hey, we heard you're the Bitcoin kid. Can you convince us it's the future?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I can." Where do I start? And less than a month or two later, they were jumping in full, you know, head first or feet first or whatever the term is.
And was that with them accumulating Bitcoin, or was where
they had first invested? They had first made, you know, an inclination they wanted to invest in BitInstant and let it grow, and they also want to start accumulating Bitcoin.
Right.
And so that was their job. That's what they asked me to help them do, is start accumulating Bitcoin for them.
Okay, but they came and put $1.5 million in the business.
In the business, yeah.
And good relationship to begin with?
Yeah, it was a pretty good relationship over the course of time. And, you know, I have some regrets by how the relationship went. But I was a young kid who walked around like a shit didn't stink. I was on top of the world. I was the king of the world. And these guys were basically trying to tell me, like, hey, like, the company's growing. You have no experience being a CEO. Why don't we get a professional CEO to run this company? And I was like, no. And in hindsight, I should have listened to them. And I wish I had, because now it's like every startup CEO's dream to be big enough where you have a real professional come in and take over the company. You get to become chairman and just kick back and relax.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, could have BitInstant been the Coinbase as such?
I'll tell you why no. Because Coinbase had learned from all of our mistakes, and literally he did. He invited me over to his house in California, Brian Armstrong, without ever telling me that he was starting Coinbase. And we sat for 3 hours, and I told him like everything about BitInstant. And then he's like, "Oh, thank you for telling me everything. I'm starting my own competitor to you."
Okay, that's
literally how it went down. You know who else was in that room? Jared Kenna, Tony Galippi from BitPay, and Roger Ver was there.
Roger Ver seems to be in all these meetings.
He's everywhere. We were so close back then. But that was the whole Bitcoin community. Like, there wasn't many meetings. There was like 10 people. It was the whole space.
So it was you.
It was so small.
Roger, Eric.
Yeah. No, Eric wasn't even involved yet.
Wasn't even involved at that point?
No, Eric didn't get involved until 2012 in the crypto space.
Okay, so you take the 1.5 million. How's it go to begin with?
The company is just growing. It's growing. It's expanding. We're moving offices. It's going crazy.
Okay.
and everything was really good. And then, we built our software to operate a certain way, and we built our company for a certain way. And then the government came out and said, you need these money transmitter licenses. And that's when we decided that we didn't have them. So we shut down the company. It was very difficult to do.
Why didn't you apply for the...
It's too expensive. It was tens of millions of dollars that I didn't have. And I got a little burnt out. I was running BitInstant for almost 3 years at this point. I was tired. I didn't really want to do it anymore. So we shut down. We gave back the investors their money. We paid the Winklevoss back their debt, and we shuttered. And I wasn't sad about it because I was like, there are a lot, and I could admit this, and I was able to admit it back then too. There are a lot better companies that had launched that are doing what BitInstant was doing, but better, nicer, and easier. And I was like, BitInstant served its purpose. It was the first company. It had a goal. It had a mandate, and its mandate was over. Its mandate was, let's get Bitcoin in the hands of as many people as possible, as cheap and as fast as possible, to get this thing where it can stand on its own 2 feet. And by the time we shut down the company, that mandate was completed. And so I wasn't sad about shutting the company, and I wanted to move on to other things.
Cameron and Tyler have expressed opinions about how you run the company as well, right?
Yeah.
And they've not been the most positive about it.
They're 100% right.
So they were fair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone's going to exaggerate. They're going to exaggerate about me. I'm going to exaggerate them. I was this 22, 23-year-old kid running a multi-million-dollar startup in the financial money transmission space. I literally was winging it. Every morning I'd wake up and be winging this thing.
Right, okay.
No idea what I was doing, but I was terrified. But the adrenaline was amazing.
Did you ever suffer from hacks with BitInstant? We
were very fortunate that we only had one hack, and we were able to stop it and only lose about 10 grand.
Okay, that's not too bad.
So. I pray. We kind of joke, me and my friends now. It's like we were the only Bitcoin company that shut down where no one lost any money. Like all of our customers got paid out 100%. They're all good. No one. We didn't take anyone's money or anything.
All right, so you closed down.
That's something to be very proud of, because all these exchanges shut down and they take away everyone's money.